try. Alright. Got some very portentous music. It'll chill out in a minute. And just let me get the comments, the chat open. I got the chat open. It's good times. Cracking open ye old little Stay Fresh palette. Still no mold. I swear I used another one and it molded immediately, but I hear there's some pigments that are more prone to it. There's a type of black paint they make from charcoal, essentially. Might be ivory black. And because it's essentially full of tree stuff, it carries a lot of fungal spores and under the right circumstances can spring to life. Alright. So, this is what I have. At this stage, there's a couple of things I would like to hammer out. I feel like the faces aren't quite there yet. In fact, the very first thing you can see, I've gotten out the smallest of my brushes that I'm going to use. I'm actually just going to kind of blend this guy's face a little bit because it's a bit rough. Good news, my dog is here. He heard I was streaming. Yep. Bye, puppy. It's very important that he gets his tennis fetch in the backyard every day. And that is, you hear how excited he is about it. So they say you can't blame gouache, but they're full of shit. So I've got the volume on the music up more this time, because classical music kind of goes like this, you know, like volume up and down. So I thought more likely to be more audible overall. And it's still hilarious, turns out. Grab a little bit of black paint. So the trick with a brush this thin is to have the right amount of paint on it. And I do mean trick, I find it quite tricky. Oh, I should post a link. This is a really beautiful... Sorry, the piano is excited. Water dish that I got for Christmas last year. Let's turn this down a little bit. I like you when the Hungarian Rhapsodies get a little unhinged, but you do have to be able to hear me. It's in quiet mode now. There's no good spot with classical music. It actually has different volumes. Okay, things I actually want to fix. I would like to darken these tree limbs a little bit. I'd like to add a sense of light on these stones to kind of match, make them flatter, kind of. I feel like we're getting a sense of a cast shadow here. Could push that a little bit further. I think a little bit more Fresnel on the water, bringing that sky color in, would be good. And my fish, they're not very exciting right now. So first order of business is, how do I make fish exciting? If you have any ideas, pop in the comments. I do have some ideas. The reality is there's not a lot, like I said, of really saturated colors in this palette. So what I want to do is add this sense of shimmer to their scales. You know? It's getting really dark outside, friends. But yeah. I'm gonna have to turn a light on. Just gonna recalculate my exposure. There we go. Thanks for your patience. So yeah, so I'm putting these little scale shimmers under the water. Try and give the sense that this is a thing that continues. Under the water. I'll let these get a little greener as we go back. I mean, that looks like a fish at least. We got 2 others to do. I might also make some cool mint to have a little variety. Some other places. I had a sense that there's some light shining on these from the sky. Ronka, you were literally just out there. Not that it's particularly wintry, but I think my dog likes the outside even more in the winter. He likes to just lie in the snow. It's very cute, kind of hilarious, and chilly. So starting tomorrow, and hopefully this is done by then, I'm going to start a 7-day little challenge that I've been talking about with some friends in a watercolor Discord I'm in. It's run by Stephanie Law. I'm gonna just sort of do a plein air challenge, but it's winter for much of the Discord, but not all. So I'm virtual plein airing probably, which is just using reference. There's a Facebook group called Virtual Plein Air that's run for years and years and years of people using stuff like Google Street View to paint landscapes, often digitally. I'm going to paint in gouache. We're calling it Plein Solstice because it's the week that encompasses the solstice. Hey, friend! Thank you for joining. So it's gonna be a gouache painting a day for 7 days from probably Street View ref again. I'll use Map Crunch, I think. I just feel like I need to kind of flex those muscles, and looking at other landscapes makes December in Ontario maybe less depressing, maybe more depressing. There's only one way to find out. But either way, it's going to be nice. And I'm going to try and stream it because this has turned out to be not a super onerous streaming setup. I can have my chat, I can have my ref, I can have my camera going, and my phone battery lasts for more than 20 minutes. It's amazing what new phones can do. So I will try and stream for a lot of it, hopefully all of it. That will also hopefully help me keep these to a more reasonable length, because I think I am very prone to painting myself into a very detailed corner, I say as I add little purple shimmers to these fish. So streaming it might, and there's no guarantee, but it might make me be more efficient. Yeah, dude, I figured it out. I know who you are. I can solve for gamer tag. What am I even saying? Yeah, because this painting's gotten a little bit complicated. To be fair, it was a complicated idea. We're calling this one ambitious. It's the euphemism today. So I'm trying to mix a lot of like very bright, saturated light colors. One of the things that I would like in the future for my palette is a couple more pastels, which is maybe a bit of a, might sound a bit like an oxymoron. But right now, the Naples yellow and the blue teal or teal blue are the colors that I can use as colors to lighten other colors. I would love something even lighter. I'd love a mint teal, and I would love a pink, so that I could have sort of a yellow, red, blue pastel option. Because it's really nice when you can lighten something with a color other than white, because then you're adding color. White just removes saturation from most gouache. So these are the things I think about. Now, the Naples yellow is not a highly saturated color. It's absolutely capable of cooling down bright colors, but it definitely warms up colder colors. So that's the sweet spot, I think. Well, these are looking more magical. No one could argue that. I'm gonna give this fish a. Fish have this line along the middle of their bodies. Not all fish, but some fish, that is an organ that detects pressure and or electromagnetic activity in the water. So it's kind of maybe the closest thing I could put it to is like a sense of touch, but different. And on some fish, it's like very obvious. I think if you look at like a tuna, you can really see this kind of line of dots along the body, this ridge, and that's really cool. Tuna are predators, so I think they're using it to hunt. So I feel like I can get away with kind of making that a spot where these fish have some extra features that will give you some information about the shape of the fish. And I'm gonna just darken it into a purple as we go back. No, that's a fish, all right. Boy, howdy, is this ever a busy painting. So I might need to calm things down a bit in here, because it's just not reading well. Like this one reads better right now. I'm going to mix a little Naples yellow to get a slightly warmer reddish pink. So I have been using a very limited palette, and I like that because it does make the whole painting feel unified. Yes, also hydrate. These fish are very damp. But yeah, there might be a point at which I should expand my palette a little bit. I don't know. It's hard to be certain. Would a cold blue help? Would a warmer yellow work? Oh boy. I'm gonna mute you. I'll be right back. Hello. Sorry about that. My dog is my doorbell. But also, he kind of just barks at nothing. So, you know. Okay, let's make some darker purple. You can hear me now? Oh, I see the volume thing moving around. So I'm going to assume so. A little bit of that sky blue. Just a little. Ooh. Nope. Being a very gray-green. Okay. Let's mix it up. Get away from the fish for a second. Mix up a nice mint. Just a little bit of a highlight. I'm glad that the water is reflective. I do think that helped. I like this camera angle because you can see what I'm making noise with. Is it interesting to you? Would you prefer a zoom in on just the painting? I'm open. I feel like this gives context. You can't see everything I'm doing on the palette, but more than nothing. For me, as someone who watches a lot of people paint, that's like, God tier. Actually, I guess probably separate palette cam is God tier. But we're talking demigod tier. Welcome. Okay, we gotta get some light on these rocks. sweet. So this is a full saturation version of this color, but that's not quite what I want. So we're going to gray it out a little bit. Just give that a test run and let that dry for a second and see if it's doing what I want. It might be too light. The nice thing about gouache is it does change value. Well, the terrible thing about gouache is that it does change value as it dries. Might still be too light though. Where's my test swatch? There we go. Just not quite dark enough. Okay. This is gonna be too dark, I think. Finding the right gray is such a core part of my painting process now. All right, let's do that. So before I had the rocks like way too light. So I'm trying to find a sweet spot. I darkened them, I liked it a lot better. But they do need some sense of light falling on them. You know, a little bit. It just makes them feel more solid. So last month, I guess I started the 8th of November, so not the whole month, but from November to December 7th, so a month, just not one calendar month, but a single month, I did this writing project on Twitter, where I wrote a story in tweets. It was really fun, and I'm very proud of the story, and it's still up. I'm going to leave it up at least until January 1st, and then I will decide what to do with it, because it turns out it's like longer than a short story. by a lot. It's about twice as long as a short story kind of traditionally is maxing out at. So I've been trying to figure out if it's something that I want to try and get anyone else to pay attention to, or if it makes sense to self-publish. And a very well-meaning friend, Sam, was like, oh, you could do your own illustrations for it and put out a really pretty self-published book. And I can't believe someone would dare say that to me, because now I have to. I'm legally contracted to do a whole fuck ton of illustrations. It's hefty. If there's folks who are finding Twitter like fucking unusable, ping me and I can get you something a little bit more readable. It was fun to write on Twitter. I doubt it's fun to read on Twitter. Hey, those rocks have dimension. Let's get some dimension on this rock. Okay, now this rock has dimension. So I kind of felt like I had to like ride the writing wave and jump back into another short story at least. Maybe not another novella. That was longer than I meant. So I've been digging through all my old story ideas and even going back to like I have an external hard drive with stuff that goes back to the first time I did undergrad. It even has some high school stuff, though I didn't really delineate between the two, so I don't know. There's some cheesy shit in there. But there's a few that are kind of sitting in my brain rent-free now. I feel like I might switch over to that again in the new year, try and write something else. Writing on Twitter is actually kind of silly because it counts as publishing and nobody wants to republish stuff, especially it turns out not novellas. So oopsie doopsie, whoopsie doodle, fucky wacky. I've written an unsellable story, but I'm gonna do it again because it was really fun. It wasn't that there were like a ton of people reading as it went. I feel like I can think of 2 or 3 people who were sort of dropping likes to let me know where they were in the story at the end there. And to be fair, it was really long, so no hard feelings. But just a couple of people really made it feel exciting to be writing. Like they gave a shit. They wanted to know what happened. A couple of folks pinged me to be like, you better finish this in DMs, which was like really cool. Made me want to do more of it. Made me want to finish that story, made me want to write more stories. So I'm sort of percolating on some stuff. Trying to decide what makes sense to pursue next. So the story I wrote has a happy ending. And it's an adventure story. I wouldn't say that it's particularly scary or action-oriented or violent. It's like a space opera thing. But the other story ideas I have, like that was probably the chillest one on the list of story ideas in my collection. So, not really sure if it's gonna be like my brand. If I like where I want to go with this. So I'm gonna see. But yeah, one of the ideas is a flooded and haunted apartment building. Another one is a cursed encounter with a hermit in the woods. Got kind of a D&D quest gone wrong. I have a story that is just the phrases "the king under the mountain" and then a bunch of adjectives, which shouldn't be enough, but it's coming back to me what I meant. That I would describe desperately bleak. And yeah, it's like not only like do I want to make this my brand, but like do I want to spend time on something this depressing? Yeah, who likes to be sad? What was the other one? The Cursed Hermit was a good one. Oh, I've been chewing on these in my head all week. The other thing I have is I have a comic script I wrote for a comic I wanted to draw called Wolf Neighbors. And I wrote this script 7 or 8 years ago, first pass, and then cleaned it up 6 years ago, 5 years ago. And didn't end up drawing the comic. And part of it was like feeling some issues with the script. Hey Sean, thanks for stopping by. I'm painting, but like slowly because it's the end and I have to think about every brush stroke. Yeah. Yeah, I would like to make Wolf Neighbors happen. I feel like there is some good stuff in there. So I gave the script a reread. And I think there's potential on some level. But also, one of the main characters is an ex-cop, and he has a redemption arc, and I don't know. I mean, he's a fantasy cop. I just don't know if that's gonna fly right now. And for good reason, right? But it is something that I'm looking and thinking about. So, that's where I'm at with that one. Forgot I had this really bright teal I can throw in different places in this painting. Let's get more of that in. So, I think Wolf Neighbors is a really cool kind of murder mystery, sword and sorcery story. I'm trying to see if there's a way I can tweak it to make it work. You know? Yeah, thinking while painting is the worst. So yeah, I like the idea of it. I like the characters. I like the plot. But I think maybe the setup could be rejigged significantly. Also, a lot of these stories have shapeshifters in them, which when I decided I thought were cool. I hadn't really thought about the metaphors. Oh, thanks, Mary. I really, really liked the characters, and I want to tell their story. I really like Gove. And it's not bleak compared to the other short story. All my short stories are fucking depressing. Like if I wrote a story for one of the adventures I've written, it would be pretty depressing. I think they're good because you give them to players who then have agency. But when you're just a reader, even if someone does all the right things or makes strong choices or whatever, it's still a really depressing world where some of these things have happened. So, yes, I do love this teal. Yes, I do love this teal. So I'm just trying to see what flavor is good. I guess the haunted apartment one doesn't have like a super depressing ending, but it's it's like a post-apocalyptic world. And I find those less compelling now, or too compelling maybe. Because it's a post-apocalyptic world with housing insecurity, which I kind of feel like I'm living in. So, I guess that makes it timely. But yeah, I feel like it would be really cool someday to have a bunch of short stories, or God help me, novellas. I guess I write novellas now. It just took that many words. It took that many words to tell a story. And I don't really know how to make stories bigger or smaller in prose. In comics, I know how to do it. I'm not good at it, but I know the theory behind it, right? And there were parts when I was writing that story, and I should probably find a title for it. I was going to title it after the Sword album that inspired it, but I don't want them to sue me. Aww. But yeah, I don't... I don't know how to make it shorter in prose. One of the issues was I wanted to have two things happening at the same time. Like some people inside a room, some people outside a room, dealing with the problems and having conversations and making choices and affecting each other. And in a comic, I would just draw both of those things happening. It might be a confusing read, but people could choose to read it however they wanted. And they could follow the story, and when shit happened simultaneously, I could bring that simultaneity together on the page. In prose, I don't know how to fucking do that. So I'm just cutting back and forth and going back and forward in time through the story, through the climax. It's a little awkward. I don't know if it's the right way to do it. It's really fun though. That pig noise was my dog. He's now going to snore beside me. Don't prove me wrong. So I should find a better title for it. But it would be really cool to have a few of these and be able to like illustrate them myself, but also like pay my friends to illustrate them. Like some of these stories, I feel like I can picture my friend's art on them, right? Like Mary, I would hire you to draw the haunted apartment building because it's a bunch of people living collectively and sort of building a cool space out of leftovers and dealing with a haunted apartment that's flooded, which I feel like you would nail. It would be an invitation. Aw, thanks, Sean. Thanks for stopping by. Take care. I'd love to hire Evelyn for one of my shapeshifter stories. Because I feel like Evelyn's work really can combine human form with other things really well. Aww. Thanks, Sean. Bye, Sean. Right? Just mulling. Just mulling. I would have to write these stories, and then I would have to have enough success for them to pay people. So, just pinning that one on the board for the future. As you do. Okay, I gotta calm these fish down a little bit. Yes, yeah, that sounded like your jam, was my thoughts. Bunch of weird 20-somethings taking over an abandoned, flooded apartment building and making it their own spot with a bunch of scavenged shit. And dealing with a ghost. I just kind of screamed your name, is all I'm saying. So maybe I will write that one next, because I'm thinking about it. I reread the plot that I had sort of outlined, and I outlined it 5 or 6 years ago, and I was like, ooh, this got really real. I am afraid of climate change and housing insecurity more than ever. I also believe that collective living is a really important survival strategy. Anyways, thinking about it. It's a lot to think about. How the fuck am I going to calm these eel, fish, dragon things down? I feel like you have a brand. If you want to break out of it, you still draw good shit. I feel like. Just sort of thought you might enjoy. Like when a face forms in the water, it's really freaky and it talks to you. That's where I'm at. Alright, we're gonna fix this. That's right, folks, I'm blending gouache. It's not for the faint of heart. I mean, that does, I think, actually hurt the eyes less. So I'm going to call this a success. I don't know if you can hear the dog, but he is snoring away beside me. So it feels a little bit like I'm undoing a ton of work, but I do think this is an improvement. And now I can do something a little bit more considered on top. That's too bad. It's really cute. I'm sure if he starts streaming and buffing, we'll pick it up on the mic. But unfortunately, right now you have to listen to Ride of the Valkyries because that's what my copyright-free classical music has for us. I think. Oh, no, something I don't know. Some of this copyright-free classical music, I think, is movie themes. But if I'm not going to get sued, I will keep using them. Just pushing some of these things side to side a little bit. Okay, let's outline the top of the fins with something instead of just making everything really complicated. Oh, nice. Cool, because it sounds like it's the theme of somebody murdering someone. So that's good. This is the fiddly bit. So again with the thinking. Also, there's crows outside I can hear. I saw a bunch of them flying overhead. That's pretty cool. It's crow o'clock. They've come back into the neighborhood. I feel like we haven't had them here for a while, but then it snowed, and there were just like a bunch of crows around. I don't know. They know their own brand, I guess. Okay, did you hear that? My precious little pig dog. Snort, snort, snort. Something I would expect from like a pug, I guess, or a bulldog, but I have a thing that kind of looks like both a schnauzer and a Old English sheepdog, and he makes these noises consistently. So yeah, I feel like the other painting I did of these two wizards was... Oh, no worries. It's not your job to balance my sound. Yeah, I feel like I haven't quite nailed the value scheme in the same way. I think it's just a little easier for me with watercolor. But I do feel like it's closer than it was. Okay, let's darken those tree branches because that was on the list. Actually, one more thing I'm going to do with the water is just soften some of those blue reflections. You know when you have one of those thoughts, you know, right at the end of the painting, you're like, oh, that would have been good. And it's just honestly very much too late. I just had one of those about painting water rolling over the fish in some spots. Points for effort. Not sure that it's quite working. Okay, the tree, the tree, the tree, the tree. Use this little pointed round. We're gonna mix Viridian Windsor green with primary red. It makes a wonderful dark, dark, dark purple. I'm going to lay on these branches. That helps. Sorry, so I have a couple of waters because I just very quickly make them opaque with paint. I try and keep one as the water that I clean the dirty water off of with. Easier said than done. Okay. Let's get some more white paint. Do some thinner, little water edge. Line work with. How are your pieces coming along? I probably should have picked up some holiday commissions, but I definitely decided to throw it all in on the store this year. Which is good. I'm glad I did some store stuff. Oh, I believe in you. R.I.P. Dink Brain. So yeah, the store was good, but because of shipping, it's not worth trying to sell anything after. Honestly, like, I should have stopped on December 1st. I think I kept selling till the 5th? 4th? But it looks, so far the mail looks like it's getting to people. But yeah, it means that this other time I'm just sort of puttering. Feeling broke. But that's okay. It's like a holiday tradition. It's like how in RPGs there's like all of this work up until 3 weeks before Gen Con. And then Gen Con happens, and then everybody has to nap for a month before they're ready to consider talking about work again. And you get this real lull in the calendar in like September. Now that that's not the bulk of my work. Turns into the lull is now. And again, life goes on, I'll be okay, but like, bleh. That's my thoughts on that. Good time to maybe clean the house or something. Maybe I could do that. I do have the joyous opportunity to give my young cousin a copy of Talisman for his birthday this afternoon. So that's going to be really fun. I have a copy that a friend gave me because he was playtesting it or playing an old version to help design a new version. I don't fully remember the details. And it's an older version that is like you're very stuck on the whim of the dice, and you can absolutely never, ever, ever finish the game if the dice are mean to everybody at the table. So I was a little worried that the new version would be just as bad, but apparently they've kind of balanced that particular mechanic a little bit better. So I don't feel quite as worried about giving it to kids who like to play to win. Talisman is a board game. The new version has all these cute little D&D style minis, and as you play, you have a character, and the character collects items, so it could be spells or weapons or animals, I think, and you have encounters as you go around the board. So kind of like Candyland, each square has a different kind of like potential activity associated with it. And how far you move is just determined by die rolls. And you have to kind of go around the outside and get the things you need to then be able to cross through the portal to the middle, and then be able to cross through that portal. I think you have to defeat a big bad to go to the center, and then you can maybe get to the talisman at the middle. So it absolutely can be a long and grueling gaming experience. But apparently, like I said, they've balanced it a little better in this new edition in terms of like being able to not fudge the dice, but like contribute to the dice a little bit more. So it shouldn't be as bad. But I feel like my cousins are just gonna pull out the characters and look at all the weapons and be like, I'm gonna be a wizard, and he's gonna have an orb and a dragon and a, you know. So I think that'll be good. Kind of want to put some splatters on this. If I got an old brush that I could use for splattering. Oh, yeah, I do. Look at this ancient creature. It was once great, but now only a remnant of its greatness remains, held together with an enormous amount of masking tape. Why does the glue always go on them? Okie dokie, first order of business. How does the splatter work? Honestly, don't know. Let's try that again. Yes! Yes! Splash! Well, this is the best. Why haven't I been doing this to all my paintings? What a fool I am. So I follow a bunch of YouTubers, and one of the gouache painters I love is Arlie Bean here on YouTube. Just Arlie Yeltser, I think. Oh, see, that's a good call. I do like moss and lichen and algae. But yeah, Arlie always has some splatters in her paintings, and they're fun. Now I see why this is extremely fun. I can direct it. They're useful. Now my hands are covered in paint. Let's do a little bit around the fish, not too much. Ancient brushes mean business. If I've kept it long enough that it has to be held together with tape, it's got to be worth it, right? Probably, maybe. We can trust past shell. Alright, algae and moss. There's already white on the palette. That's okay. We're gonna mix up more. You and your good suggestions. Hell yeah. This is the lichen pass. And then we'll probably do a seaweed pass. And by seaweed, I mean riverweed. I have to resplatter some white. But you know what? That's fine. I enjoyed it. One thing I'm trying to remember to do with gouache is change the color as I paint. I feel like my mind is like treating it sort of like flood filling. I'm like, okay, we've made this much of the color. We're going to just put it everywhere. It's like that's not the end of the world, but it's not. I can create more color variety if I think about it. Plan ahead and such. Boy howdy, this is a busy painting. And then it's like up there. What can I do up here to balance a little bit of this intense detail? Kind of no. I do it, but it's very risky, and the more paint you have on the page, the more likely it is literally all going to pick up and move. So, in general, people don't say that you can. I've done it a bit on this painting. But at this stage, with all of this paint here, it might be a bit of a bad idea. I think the thing I have to do is trust in the outlines I'm going to put on this. I'm going to touch up some of those white sprays that just need to be resprayed over the lichen on the rocks. Yeah, Claire de Lune. This is Debussy, and he wrote, I don't know how many versions of Claire de Lune, 1,000. And when I was a little kid taking singing lessons, this is one of the songs, not this one, but Claire de Lune was one of the songs that my singing teacher wanted me to learn. They kept giving me very classical arias and stuff, which again, I don't mind now as an adult, but as a 10-year-old, I could not understand the appeal thereof. And it's a type of music that doesn't have things like choruses or verses. Just the style that Debussy was writing in. And I couldn't learn it. I just couldn't. I didn't care. It wasn't interesting. And I couldn't get my head around it. And I was like 10 or 11, so fair enough, kind of. And I decided I didn't like Debussy, and that continued into adulthood. I held on to that little bitter thought until I heard a version of this song made for a video game. It's so pretty. And it made me like it. And now I like it a lot. I couldn't tell you which one they tried to teach me, though. That's just a mystery for the ages. Okay. Just adding a little contact shadow, essentially, where the fish hit the water. Yeah, I don't mind that. Okay. Okie dokie. What time is it? It's 1:30. Should I ink this now? Or should I ink this later? The answer is probably now. But it should dry first. I want a very dry thing before I ink it. So, yeah. So I'm going to call it now on this. But I might be back on here today. If not today, probably tomorrow lunchtime, or if I'm really feeling perky, before lunch. But let's not exaggerate here. Ooh, see, I got splashes up on that tree. That's no good. Here I go. Fixing the tree. Yeah. Yeah, as soon as I fix this. Yeah, it's at that stage where I'm just going to keep tweaking, I think, for a little while, but maybe I can get myself to switch to the pen after. But yes, for now, break time. Thanks for the hangout. Super nice to have company. Good luck with your commissions and any dink shit your brain tries to pull. I believe in you. I also really like your art, just for the record. And I will see y'all back on the internet. Have a good afternoon, folks.